welcome to the new sound of Keeba. We brought some new music on, we've got some new interviews, and we've got a lot more, so stay tuned for the new Keeba Live.
Welcome, everybody, to the new show. I'm William Lee, podcaster, podcast publisher, and the actual, and you'll have to watch real closely as I do this, sound technology producer of this wonderful show. Yeah. Notice how I said producer. Hey, it's great to have you with us. This is our first show live. We're going to have a couple of technical problems, but I think we can work it out for sure. It's very important for this show today because we wanted to talk, first of all, about the fact that Keeba Live is now going live, and you can find our shows after the presentation on your favorite podcast platform, such as iHeartRadio or the great podcast Spotify network. It's really great to be there. We appreciate all of you that have helped us come to this point where we bring information, conversation, and sometimes just pure ranting and raving about what's going on. We'll be on Saturday nights between 9:15, and we'll be enjoying what I call an evening of just relaxation, but still, we hope, good conversation. We want to remind you also that you can contact our show now simply by email. And the email address, you say, is Keeba, Keeba, agency @gmail.com. Let me give that to you one more time. That's Keeba, Keeba, agency @gmail.com. We've got a lot of things to talk about as far as the prisoner exchange that just recently happened. And I want to, first of all, give a disclaimer. I'm bringing this conversation up for two reasons. Number one, I think there's an imbalance here somewhere, a large imbalance. And the second reason is that I think we need more conversation about this. All the politicians are smiling. They're happy. Well, at least we think all of them are smiling and happy. But there's something deep down inside of us all that wonder why and how this went together and why we have left an American military man still in the Russian jail. This is kind of interesting, isn't it? But before we get into it, I want to talk about an event coming up, the third annual holiday toy giveaway. You know, Santa Claus is always very busy this time of year, and he doesn't want to miss any children getting a good Christmas and having toys under the tree. So this year, once again, I might add, Bill and Gail have come up with a complete new toy giveaway program. Now, it'll be hosted by a nonprofit, community-based organization, and their whole, I would say, blessing to everybody is simply that they know there's families out there that are suffering, and they're suffering financial difficulties. So what they want to do, Bill, it's Grandpa Bill in this case, and Grandma Gail, they want to work with Santa to give away free toys and gifts for kids of all ages. To register for this time, when you can come down to the First Christian Church, and let me give you that address real quickly now. That's at 602 North Orchard, right on the corner of 6th and Orchard. Beautiful, lovely campus. They'll be there giving away toys. And for you to be able to take a part of this great opportunity for the community toy giveaway, we ask you to do us a favor. Please include in your email that is going to register you, your children, the following information: your name, telephone number, number of children, and their ages, what day and time you would prefer to come in. Now, here's the email address that you want to use when you post this information. It's Gail at Bookworm. That's Gail at Bookworm234 at AOL.com. Let me give it to you one more time. That's Bookworm, BOKWORM 234 at AOL.com. And remember now, please include all that following information numbers of children and ages that we've asked for. You can set up a time and a date to come in and pick out some free toys that Santa Claus has specially delivered to Bill and Gail. Oh, wait a minute. That's Grandpa and Grandma. You'll have a great time. Come on down. Walk-ins subject to availability, of course. Now, here's the days that are available. December 14th through the 19th to the 21st. However, on Sunday, the 18th, the hours are going to change. They'll be 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. The other days, the 14th through the 17th and the 19th through the 21st, will be 8 a.m. in the morning until, that's right, 8 a.m. until 9. So come on in. You'll have a great time. Make sure you register ahead of time. And I think that you'll really be excited to take part in this great adventure. I call it an adventure because it is. It's an adventure in community spirit. It's when the spirit of the community really reaches out to those that are less fortunate. So we've had a rough year, let's face it. In fact, we've had a rough 2 years. And to think that Santa Claus is just an email away for your children is a warm thought, gives great holiday cheer. So let's make it a great holiday. Let's get those kids and register them quickly so that they can be surprised Christmas morning. Now, the other thing I want to talk about before the show goes on, we'll get a lot of stuff that's very interesting in these different shows. This is actually, tonight is a trailer, which is going to be just a short show to tell you that we're on the air. We've got some great guests coming on the air with us very near future. Our good friend and sponsor of the show, Dr. Troy Munson from Revealing Wholeness, is going to be with us. He's got a great podcast that you can find on your favorite podcast platform. And he talks about nutrition, how important it is for your body, chiropractic care, and more. So you want to catch that show. Let me give you that title again. It is Revealing Wholeness with Dr. Troy Munson. That's coming up here. New shows very soon as the new year comes in, roaring in. And this is going to be a great year. We think here at the Great South Hill Keeba Live station that 2023 is going to be a wonderful year for everybody. So we want to start those conversations now, get things ready to roll. And a great time is to take care of your health. It's very important. Get some nutrition ideas and check in with Dr. Troy Munson. Today's podcast is, well, I call it a podcast because basically that's what it is. It's on a subject that is just absolutely upsetting me, and I'm sorry to say that so loudly. Maybe it shouldn't be so upsetting. Maybe it should be a wonderful moment. If you've caught some of our shows, The Old Man Ranting from the Kitchen, which is a Sunday event, or some of my other podcasts that are on our podcast network of over 8 different podcast shows with different guests and hosts running those shows in different platforms, we've talked about, well, the prisoner exchange, which just occurred. I think we've covered britney-grinder every way that you could cover the subject. And it's been in the social media news. It's been in the major news market. It has been all over the world, the discussion, I'm sure, as of today, of this exchange for what I think athlete that does a marvelous job and is highly trained, who made a horrible mistake and broke a law. Now that's where we get into what I call kind of a balancing point. One side of the scale to balance out this conversation is that she did break the law. Now, she claims she didn't know she had the marijuana oil in her possession at the time she arrived at the airport in Russia. Of course, a lot of people have said, what's a basketball player for the WNBA doing in Russia? Well, as I've mentioned before, one of the biggest imbalances in this country is athletes men who get paid big old money for the same sport that women perform, and I think in many cases do it better, to be frankly honest. But without that balancing point, the NBA gals are to the point where they've got to come up with enough money to survive. Because, an athlete does not have a long career, period. You can't say, well, I'm going to be a basketball player, I'm going to be a pro, and I'm going to make it for 30 years. It doesn't happen that way. Your body doesn't last 30 years. It's as simple as that. And any professional athlete will say the same thing. It's no possible way I'm going to survive for more than maybe 10 years at the most, if I'm lucky. So they've got to make the most they can to be able to retire and go into another maybe career in their lifetime after they leave the professional sports arena. And that means money. You got to have money to survive. And right now, with the terrible prices increases and inflation by the carload that we're suffering, it's getting really hard not to be able to sit down and say, I'm really nervous. What am I going to do when I retire? I can't make it. I've got to have more money. I've got to come up with more revenue streams to build into a retirement. It's as simple as that. So a lot of the professional women basketball players go to Russia to play basketball in the off season. It keeps them in good shape. It, I believe, sharpens their game even more. So when they come back and play over here in the NBA, they really have a professional attitude. They are professionals. And let's face it, it always helps to take a little bit more opportunity to build your skills. Now, in Russia, the pay is a lot different than it is over here in America. And that's the part that draws the WNBA players to Russia. Now, yes, they're taking a chance, and they know they're taking a chance. And she should have known that she was taking a chance. This is not the first rodeo she attended. This is not the first time she went to Russia. She'd been there before. She knew what she was walking into. Did she forget and hurry and pack up and just leave the marijuana oil in her suitcase? I don't know. But it seems to me that, well, you should think about those things, because if you can't take the time, then don't do the crime. And when she arrived over there, she was found guilty under their law, and maybe it's not as fair as ours, okay? I'll agree. Probably is not. But it's still, you're in a foreign country, you live by the foreign country's laws and politics. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. She didn't. She made a mistake. She was caught, and she ended up going through a horrible, I'm sure, 9 months or 10. I've forgotten how many months exactly she was there. But here's the thing that bothers me. I heard this story about a man who was a military man, and I'm not going to bring out his name. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. He was in the United States Marine Corps. He believed, as I believe, that every military person in the military that has fought, that believes that every last man will always bring, I say, a very important part in the construction of nobody's left behind. No man will be left behind. Nobody should be left behind. Now, if they break the law, yes, they're going to be behind. But one way or another, we work and work and work as America, as the diplomats, as the politicians should do, as the leaders that we elect, we try to bring these people home. What in the world happened to the britney-grinder story? And remember now, it has been on social media. It has been everywhere, grinding away, not making fun of her last name, but grinding away at our minds that there she is, African-American professional athlete, locked up on a very, 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 as far as I'm concerned, I don't know, I guess you'd call it stupid bit of law. And she's there. However, it's their law. Now she's found guilty. Then she's taken to jail. Do I think that she got a fair trial? Probably not, folks. Russia does not like us newsbreak at all over here. If Putin had his way, we would all be out in the streets agreeing to military actions, agreeing to the factor that he is the greatest thing that's ever walked the earth, agreeing that all of our rights are to be flushed away and that we will run by the Putin communistic way of law and order, or any communistic country's law and order. And it's wrong. I mean, the total thing is wrong. Now, here's what upsets me, and I want to start a conversation about. All this stuff is going on. All these politics and promises and all this quiet negotiations, which were not printed up until after the final release was made. What in the world happened to the gentleman, the military man, who went to a foreign country, okay? And I'm not going to get into why he was there. I'm going to just make a picture point that for 4 years he has been locked up in a Russian jail. 4 years. The Russians say that he is a spy, and he's there to overthrow the government or whatever bunch of jibber-jabber Putin can put in the minds of the Russian people. The man, Mr. Putin, and I'm going to say Mr., is without a doubt missing 4 or 5 bolts that God put in his head when he found out he was a rejection. Satan picked him up and made him into a real demonized human being. Putin knew how to work this exchange. He knew that, well, the other guy's been here for 4 years. A lot of negotiation, I'm sure, was going on under the table, but none of it is clearly political as the grinder exchange. Now, why do I say that? Well, my thoughts are, and remember, this is my thoughts, isn't it interesting that President Biden immediately has a big smile? He's got things done, which is wonderful. But isn't it also wonderful to understand that the Democrats are getting ready for the big 2023 election? That's right, it's next year, because in their minds, by next year, they'll have everybody in place, and when it comes ballot time in 2024, it's going to be a runaway. But they have to have some of the minority groups that they have lost because of the confidence ratio and the changes that they've made this last couple of years. Let's face it, the Latino vote has been shifting. The Black American vote has been shifting. Sure, it's shifting, and it should shift. But here's the problem. The Democrats don't want to see a shift. They want control, and they're slowly losing it. So what is the best way to get back to that popular stand that we are the answer, that the Republicans should be stomped on even harder because we Democrats, as we've shown you, we are the people that can make things happen. All of a sudden, britney-grinder is exchanged for a prisoner that we had that was an arms dealer. Now, if you look at the history of this arms dealer, and his last name is B-O-U-T, I believe. If you look at his history, I don't know why in the world somebody didn't help him, well, shall we say, put him on a slow boat and put him in a shark-infested waters as the boat sank. This man has killed ruthlessly, we don't know how many. This man has armed armies for ISIS. This man knows how to kill people. He knows how to arrange arms, and he knows how to deal. And I don't really believe he is 100% what you would call a Santa Claus when it comes to community spirit, because this man is what Russia needs right now. The Ukrainians are kicking Russians' butt. And Putin ain't too happy over this. He needs that arms dealer back. He needs that terrorist back. He needs to have his devil demon in his pocket so that he can continue on raging war and killing off those Ukrainians who have defiantly said, this is our land and we are not going to give up and give in. He needs the artillery. He needs the propaganda. He needs it all and more to break down their will so that he can march in to the Ukraine's area, the land that he claims they should not be on, that it should be back to Mother Russia, that they should be taught a lesson. And now, guess what? The teacher that's trying to teach this lesson is getting their hands slapped. Really interesting, isn't it? Think about it for just a moment. Putin, some people say, health-wise, is deteriorating. And maybe it is. Stop and ask yourself this, however. Why is it that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, an arrangement is made and the U.S. did not stand in the face of terrorists and demand that both prisoners be released? That is this Marine and also, that's right, britney-grinder. Why was it just britney-grinder? Why was it just britney-grinder constantly on the media? How horrible she was being treated when she was moved to the, I would call it penitentiary or penal colony, whatever word that you would like to use to become PC correct, and all the nastiness and ugliness that constantly was told to us. Why haven't we heard about the other gentleman? Why haven't we heard about the Marine that's over there, that's been there for 4 years suffering? He made a statement. You can check it. It's on the social media platforms. Check it out. It's his voice. He's wondering why. Why isn't anybody working to bring me home? Why? And that's my question. I always assume that no man is ever, or Marine, or Navy, or American, ever left behind. It's sad. It is, as far as I'm concerned, horrifying. I'm not a politician. I'm not a diplomat. Of course not. I am an average, non-PhD speaker. I do podcasting. I know some people are going to say, well, he's just a loudmouth rebel. He's just trying to stir things up because he's a diehard Republican. Let me straighten this out for you folks right off the get-go so there's no fog that's going to blind you in the viewpoint that I'm trying to present. I am not a Republican. I am an American. I believe in our Constitution. I believe in this country. I believe also that our leaders, who we regular Joe, hardworking, blue-collar workers vote into office, are ditching us. I believe that this is another sign, this trade of a terrorist for a basketball player, female, is probably another step in the direction of the decaying of our leadership in Washington, D.C. It's as simple as that. I'm not a Republican. I'm going to say it again, and I'm not a Democrat. I'm proud of America, but I'm seeing it fall apart morally. I'm seeing it fall apart in poor leadership. I'm seeing it going down the tubes. And it scares me for my grandkids and my great-grandchildren to come. It won't affect me, folks. I am over 70 years of age, so it's not going to affect me that much. But 10 years from now, there's going to be either sun at the end of the tunnel and an American spirit to rebuild the morality, education, and get this country back on its feet, or it's going to be a glimpse of the communistic flag flying over us. 1963, I believe, was the year that Khrushchev came out, ripped his shoe off as he's standing at a podium, slams the heel of that shoe down on the podium and says, you better hear me because I believe that we will not raise the communistic flag over America. You will. And that's what scares me to death. And each year that goes by, I see just a little bit more crumbling, a little bit more decay, a little bit more leadership. It's slowly drifting to the greed side, drifting away from what our forefathers built this country on. I know people sit down and say to me, "Oh, Bill, you're absolutely wrong." Oh, my goodness. Where have you been? Have you been locked up in a boot somewhere and thrown in a closet and the door closed? This is not the world that you think that it is, Bill. It's just, you've got to come to a conclusion that we're moving forward. We are the biggest power on earth, which we are. We are the most powerful company on earth. But then I start thinking for a moment, wasn't the Roman Empire, that was pretty powerful, wasn't it? What happened to Roman thoughts, technology, and politics? I think they dissolved. I think that you'll look back in history like many organizational thoughts and power, dictators and government. After a while, for some reason, the ideology of greed, the ideology of moral decay slips in and erodes through the foundation that built that particular power. It didn't for the Romans. The Romans collided and fell, and the list goes on. Is America going to be another one of those powerhouses? It's just going to slowly within dissolve and implode upon the democracy, the Bill of Rights? Is that what's going to happen? Are we going to turn to socialism to bail us out? Are we going to turn to a society that, oh, well, somebody will take care of us? We can't afford to, folks. It isn't going to work. It isn't going to happen. And when that takes over, then I believe you will look up at that flagpole and you won't see Old Glory. You'll see a communistic regime flag flying. And this scares me. So there's my thought on what's going on in America. If you have a comment, maybe you think that I'm way off base, hey, come on, send me an email. I want to hear from you. The email address again is Keeba, the Keeba Agency, Keeba Agency @gmail.com. I would, invite you on the show. Maybe we can hook up and do a podcast together, or come on the live show and chat. I want to open the door of conversation. I'm not 100% right on everything. I might not even be 50% right. But you see, the difference is I'm starting a conversation. And believe me, folks, conversation's what built this company, what built this country, what made the power of the mightiest, fastest growing country of freedom in the world. So let's talk about it. Well, back onto the show comments. I've got a couple of new ones that came up, and we're going to have what's called the email interest conversations. And boy, email conversation I did receive not too long ago. It was over the issue that I made on schools and education and why we're falling through the cracks of education. And I had a very interesting conversation with one of my listeners who told me about what's happening in preschool. Yeah. And how things are being set up for preschool children as far as how to get them to behave, to respond, how to help them and give them the tools to learn so that when they go into kindergarten and advance their way up, they'll absorb more freedom, education. They'll become more creative. And we'll have a show on that for sure, because I got some interesting points that I'd like to bring out and discuss with you. And I think it'll be a lot of fun, and that's coming up in the very near future. So if you have, by the way, an idea, and maybe you're saying to yourself, I got something really upsets me, I'd like to talk to Mr. Lee on Keeba Live and find out what's going on, please, as I've said before, get a hold of us, email us. We'll be more than happy to answer back to you. We can have phone conversations, podcast conversations. No, remember this. Nobody is told that I'm not going to listen to them. My door is open. There isn't censorship on this end of the microphone. This end of the microphone is conversation, and that's the way we're going to keep it for sure, I know. So anyway, until we get together, I really appreciate the factors that you let me come into your homes tonight. I hope that you're looking forward to us. We'll be better organized. I apologize for some of the problems that we may have had at the first of the show with our technology. We're brand new at this, I'll be honest with you. We've done podcasting for over 6 years. This is going on our 7th year, and we're very proud of that accomplishment. We're also very proud of some of our great shows that I want to just mention to you real quick in closing. Community Heroes. We need more community heroes. We have a special podcast where we get in touch with community heroes, set up some shows for them, and give the communities an opportunity to hear and find out what a community hero they really are. And we really enjoy doing this. I've talked to some wonderful people. I'm looking forward to that show in this coming year. It's starting in January 15th of 2023. We have rings of I don't know, ideas. They're just little rings that we put up on the wall, and we put a little note in it. This is an idea for a podcast. This is an idea for a podcast. Last year, we did the same thing, and we came up with a podcast show that we did. I'm not sure. I think close to 12 or 13 different podcasts. It's the Power Hour Entertainment, where we got involved with a group called LUDAC. And LUDAC is basically the Latino-born American citizens. And it was really interesting. We are going to continue on that show. A good friend of mine hosted it for a while, and that's Mr. Abe Cortez. He's now in Wyoming working with LUDAC, and we're going to get him on the air again. But we've got some other interesting guests we're going to bring on and talk about the side of the world that we don't talk much about, and that's the Latino group of Americans and what they have to say and how they're getting into government. And it's a very interesting topic. We'll talk a little culture, a little history, and more. And I think you'll really enjoy what we call a Power Hour Entertainment Show. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a little music for the show as we close up today. And it's one that I just really, really enjoy. You know, the opportunity of this great Christmas spirit. But I think more impressive is the spirit that we have with our kids. And one of the signs that really come out to me each year is the love and attention of how the families react. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful world, isn't it? When everybody can really enjoy what's going on around them, can really connect with the family. One of the songs, In My Daughter's Eyes, was brought out by Rascal Flatts, and I think it says it all. So here we go. Maestro, turn the music on.
I hope the days come easy and the moments pass slow, and each road leads you where you want to go. And if you're faced with a choice and you have to choose, I hope you choose the one that means the most to you. And if one door opens to another door closed, I hope you keep on walking till you find the window. If it's cold outside, show the world the warmth of your smile. But more than anything, more than anything, my wish for you is that this life becomes all that you want it to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same things too.
Rascal Flatts, and I wished in my daughter's eyes. It's great to have you with us. Thank you so much. And from all of us here at the Keeba Studios, we want to leave you with this thought. If you keep a positive, open mind, love in your heart for fellow men, you'll always keep a smiling. See you next Saturday. Thanks so much again for listening.